They didn't speak for years after that. While Win, York, and Hazel worked on their education machine, Ben joined the education department of the brand new government, working his way up in the ranks until he was very nearly in charge. Along the way, he heard disconcerting reports. York had apparently traveled to another town to pick up some parts for a larger machine and never reappeared. Hazel had apparently perished after a brief but severe illness. Wynne, however, was still plugging away and eventually contacted the education department, asking them to send a government agent out to inspect his work. He wanted to see if it would, when finished, do them any good. While he was proud of his former friend's success, Ben didn't want to go himself, so he sent an agent named Keown Gregory, who was known for his thoroughness and loyalty to the government. If there was any worth in Wynne's machine, Gregory would commend the man and see to it that his work was heavily subsidized. When Gregory returned from Wynne's laboratory with the invention in tow, Ben was mildly fearful. While it meant that his friend had managed something excellent with his work, he had also specified that it was in the preliminary stages, not ready to sell. And his suspicions were confirmed when Wynne himself arrived at his office, a small girl about 3 years old in tow. "Ben, it started," he said. If it had been anyone else, Ben would have been rather nonplussed at the intrusion. But the fact that it was Wynne, whom he hadn't seen or talked to in years, made him leap to his feet. "Wynne, what's—" He stopped abruptly in the middle of his sentence. He had been right. Something was definitely wrong. "It started, Ben. The government's taking over." Wynne's eyes were wild. "Isn't that kind of obvious?" "You don't get it." Wynne pounded his fist on Ben's desk, causing a clump of pencils to tip over and spill onto the floor with a wooden rattle. "They're taking over, controlling everything. Do you hear what I'm saying?" he roared, grabbing Wynne by the arms and practically shaking him. "Ben, everything is changing." "Now calm down, Wynne. I'm sure you're overreacting. It can't be as bad as you seem to think." "You don't understand," moaned Wynne through clenched teeth. "They've taken everything. Everything, Ben." "Is this about your machine?" "Yes, it's about the machine, and about everything I own, my equipment, my food. Ben, they've taken it all, everything." "Why on earth—" "I had to stop them, Ben. They're not who you think they are." "Stefan, I know they've lied about the takeover, but all in all, what they've done has helped Merkel. Less people are breaking the law. They're moving everything to those new buildings they're putting up at the center of town. They're a lot more organized than the old government was." "Do you think that's what this is all about?" spat Wynne. "Organized? Better at keeping the peace? If that's what you think." "I don't know what to think," Ben suddenly roared. "I'm being bombarded left and right with this propaganda. No one is telling the truth. I just have to trust that they know what they're doing. It's all I can do." "No, Ben." Wynne's voice was quieter now, shaking with emotion. "It's not." He indicated the little girl standing beside him. "You have a daughter?" Ben inquired, his voice gentling. "Yes. She's the spitting image of her mother, isn't she?" "I wouldn't know." "Oh, that's right. We lost contact after you wouldn't help me." A bit of bitterness returned to Wynne's voice in that moment, an irate, stiff sound, which, somehow, brought Ben back to when he and Wynne had fought over the education machine. "I married Hazel McClellan. You remember her?" "Yeah." Suddenly remembering that Hazel had died, Ben lowered his voice and said, "I'm sorry, Wynne." "Kara is all I have left of her now," the other man murmured. "And now," he suddenly growled, "I can't even take care of her. Ben, I'm listed. And so's she." One student raised her hand. What's listed mean?" The professor blinked. "You don't know?" "No." The other students let out a murmur of agreement. "Well, listing, it's like exile, ostracism from otherworld history." Off the students' blank looks, she continued. "It means you're kicked out of society. No one can talk to you. You can't work. You're dead unless you find a community of people who find some way of getting food." "Oh, thanks, Professor." Ben blinked. "They listed her?" "They think I'll raise her to be a threat. They weren't taking any chances. Not after I refused to give them my machine or my help. They're heartless. Stefan, what can I do? Clearing his throat, Wynne held his daughter out. You can take her. Raise her as your own daughter. His voice cracked. She'll be safe. She can get an education, have the life she deserves. They'll never know. Ben took a deep breath. Wynne, as much as I'd like to, I can't. Taking care of someone that young, it'd be an unbearable burden on me. I couldn't teach. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. But, Ben, you can't. Wynne, I couldn't afford it. It's too risky, too much to ask. Why don't you ask York? No one knows what happened to him, hissed Dr. Wynne through gritted teeth. Oh, right. His voice trailed off as he remembered that his other friend had vanished. You see, Ben, you have to take her. You're the only one. Ben's heart ached. He wanted to take her, he really did. But it just wasn't practical. I can't. I'm sorry. Surely I'm not the only one. Surely there's someone else. There is no one else. Wynne's voice was hollow now. Goodbye, Ben. Wynne, wait. Where will you go? I don't know. And with that, Wynne gave Ben one last look, a glance filled with every ounce of his anger and fear. Then he lifted his daughter and stalked out of the office, slamming the door behind him. Within 2 minutes, Ben ran after them. He couldn't let them go that easily. He had to take the girl. Who knew what would happen to her if he didn't? But Wynne and Kara were gone. They had vanished without a trace.